Ever feel like just buried in emails, Meetings stacked on meetings, and the actual work, the stuff we're supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
kind of gets lost in there.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
It is kind of wild how often we treat communication like it's free, just this thing we do that doesn't really factor into the equation.
Yeah, like it's just expected, not part of the actual work.
Right. One of the sources you shared, Massless ropes, frictionless pulleys, calls this the massless rope illusion. Catchy, right?
Okay, I like a good visual. Massless rope. How does that connect to, say, my inbox being a complete disaster zone?
All right, think back. Back to high school physics class. Remember those problems, the ones calculating forces on a rope, but, and here's the kicker, they told you to just ignore the weight of the rope itself.
Okay, yeah. Made the math way easier, even if it wasn't how things worked in real life.
Exactly. And businesses, we do the same thing all the time with how we communicate. It's like we pretend that gathering information, sharing decisions, writing up reports, all of it is instant and effortless. But the reality is, every email, every meeting, every single memo, it all represents actual work hours. And work hours mean
Real money.
bingo. And it's not just about the sender either, right? The more people in the loop, the more complex this web of communication gets. And as you can imagine,
Pricier those hidden costs become.
you got it. All those approvals, reports, meetings that could have been emails, it all eats into their actual workday.
Never thought about it like that, but it's so obvious.
And that's the danger zone. Since these costs are often hidden, we don't manage them well, do we? Communication becomes an afterthought, not a core part of how the business runs. And, well, that can have some seriously unfun consequences.
Yeah, this is really highlighting a blind spot for a lot of us, I think. But it sounds like this whole thing just snowballs as companies get bigger, more specialized, right?
You hit the nail on the head. Massless ropes, frictionless pulleys, talks about this, actually. They have this example of a malfunctioning phone. Sounds simple enough, right?
Sure. Relatable even. We've all been there.
But think about it. You've got the person with the broken phone, then their phone company, maybe even their landlord gets pulled in if there's a wiring issue. Suddenly, what seems straightforward becomes a multi-party communication fiasco.
Oof, yeah. I can feel the stress of that group text multiplying as we speak.
Right, and each little interaction, each attempt to explain the problem and find a solution, that's more time and energy, which equals, you guessed it, money, all spent on just coordinating, not on creating anything new or valuable.
So we're saying the more specialized we become, the more vulnerable we are to these communication chain reactions. It's like a recipe for inefficiency.
Precisely.
So we're talking about a cost of doing business that most people don't even realize is there. But man, it could have a huge impact, especially as companies grow.
It is a bit of a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
We create all these departments, these hierarchies, thinking it'll streamline things, make communication easier, but then...
You end up with new bottlenecks.
Exactly. New points where things can go wrong, where those massless ropes get tangled up.
Totally. And it's more than just avoiding bottlenecks, too, right? There's that idea of organizational capacity. It was a real aha. What's this organizational capacity all about?
Okay, picture this. You want a piece of furniture, right? Something beautiful, handcrafted. You could try to build it yourself.
I'd end up with more splinters than furniture, but yeah, I get the idea.
Right, or you could hire someone, a skilled artisan, someone who knows what they're doing. Either way, you're acknowledging there's this hidden cost to craftsmanship. The skill, the time, all the attention to detail that goes into making something unique and functional, it has value.
Okay, so how does that apply to like a giant company? We're talking hundreds, thousands of employees.
Just like that handmade table. Organizations, they need attention too, right? Constant attention just to maintain the capacity to function, to do what they're supposed to do. And we focus so much on the tangible stuff, products, services, the bottom line, all those spreadsheets.
The stuff you can like put your finger on.
Exactly. But we often miss the invisible stuff, the systems, the processes, all that behind the scenes stuff that actually underpins everything else.
And those systems, those are built on communication, aren't they?
100%. And that's where it gets interesting. Get ready for this. If you're not actively building that capacity, that organizational capacity, you're actually losing it.
Okay, now that sounds a little ominous. How do we accidentally lose the ability to, function as a company?
Think about those people we all know, right? Every organization has them. The heroes, the ones who are holding it all together, sheer force of will, maybe a little too much caffeine. They're the keepers of knowledge, the masters of the really complicated processes, and they shouldn't have to do it all forever, should they?
We've all worked with those people, lifesavers, every single one. But they shouldn't be the only ones who know how things work.
That's exactly it. If you're not training others, documenting how things are done, building ways to pass that knowledge along, then when those key people move on, and let's be honest, they burn out.
Because nobody can do that
All
forever.
right. And here's the kicker. This loss of capacity, it happens slowly. You might not even notice it at first. You find someone new, great. But do they have that same depth of knowledge? Not always.
It's like a game of telephone, except instead of a silly phrase, it's how your business runs that's getting distorted.
And those little changes, they add up. Suddenly decisions take longer, mistakes slip through, maybe you miss out on something big because that foundation, those systems for communication, for knowing what the heck is going on, they weren't strong enough to handle a few people changing roles.
This is all tying back to those hidden costs, isn't it? Not just the time and money wasted on the surface, but the long-term risk. We lose that, what did you call it, institutional memory, that deep understanding of how things actually work, because let's be honest, it's not always how the manual says it is.
Truth. And what makes it even tougher, you can't just throw money at this problem. Hiring more people doesn't magically give them years of experience or rebuild those relationships overnight.
It's about investing in the right ways, making sure that knowledge gets shared, that expertise has a chance to, I don't know, grow organically. Like that handcrafted furniture takes time. This has been, wow, really eye-opening, but I gotta admit, a little bit intimidating too. If communication is this complex, this potentially budget-draining thing, where do we even start to make it better?
Right. One big idea that comes up again and again, we got to align how we communicate with what we're actually trying to achieve, our goals, our values, all of it. It's not about just talking more, it's about being smarter with how we communicate. And that, my friend, is where that sci-fi source you sent comes in Tagon's Tufts Officer's Operational Manual.
Right. I gotta admit, when I saw that title, I thought, this has gotta be a joke. But honestly, it illustrates this whole strategic communication thing so well, even if it is set in space with, lasers and whatnot.
What I loved about it was how it showed how important it is that everyone's on the same page about the process. In the story, Tagon's Tufts, these elite space mercenaries, they realize just having a bunch of brilliant officers isn't enough if they're all working off different playbooks.
They're basically a bunch of super geniuses with a communication problem. Sounds like a lot of companies I know.
Exactly. They need a way to get everyone on the same page.
And that's where their tomb comes in, right?
Yeah.
The Tufts hand brain of operations.
Yeah.
Master. It's like their Wikipedia, their communication Bible.
Exactly. And it's constantly being updated, refined every time they come up against a new challenge. They learn, they adapt, they put it in the Thum.
So you're saying we should all have a Thum?
Maybe not literally, but the idea, right. Having clear, easy-to-use systems for keeping that important info, whether it's on the company intranet, regular training sessions, even just well-documented processes, that stuff makes a huge difference in cutting down those hidden communication costs we talked about.
It's about creating a shared language.
Yes, so you're not constantly reinventing the wheel.
And that actually makes me think about something else that came up in the sources, that communication, it's not just about sharing information. It's about building trust too, isn't it?
100%. If you trust the people you're working with, you're going to communicate better. You're not afraid to speak up, to bring up problems, and can only lead to good things, right? Better decisions, stronger organizations, the whole shebang.
When people feel like they can be honest, that's when the real magic happens. Innovation, problem solving. You can't put a price tag on that.
You said it. When you've got that culture of transparency where people feel safe sharing their ideas, their concerns, without the fear of getting in trouble for it, that's when you get an environment where everyone can thrive.
So we're talking about more than just avoiding miscommunication. We're talking about actively building a workplace where it's less likely to happen in the first place.
Nailed it. It's a mindset shift. Stop thinking about communication as a separate thing, something we got to do on top of our real work.
Right. It's not just sending emails. It's building relationships, sharing what we know. It's making space for honest conversations.
It's about everyone realizing that they're part of this. Effective communication, it's everyone's responsibility, not just the comms team or HR.
It sounds like when it comes down to it, what we're really talking about is investing. Investing in those systems, those shared practices, the things that help us use the collective brainpower of everyone in our organizations.
Exactly. And those investments, yeah, they might not have an immediate payoff, but over time, they make all the difference. They're what build organizations that aren't just good at what they do, but ones that are resilient, the kind that can roll with the punches, adapt, and thrive, no matter what's thrown their way.
So where does that leave us? What's the one big takeaway, the thing you want listeners to walk away with today.
Here it is. The next time you find yourself totally frustrated by some communication breakdown or staring at your inbox like it's personally victimizing you,
Been there?
don't just throw your hands up, right? See it as an opportunity.
An opportunity, really.
Yes, an opportunity to say, okay, what's going on here? How could we do this better? How do we make communication a source of clarity, not chaos? Because at the end of the day, the real cost of communication, it isn't about wasted time or missed deadlines. It's about all that potential, all that amazing stuff we could achieve if we just got better at talking to each other.
That's such a good point. It's not about just fixing the little problems when they pop up. It's about going deeper.
Right.
Looking at how we work together, how we build companies that are not just successful, but built to last. This has been, well, a lot to think about. Not just about the how-to of emails and meetings, but the bigger picture, how we collaborate, how we build teams that are in it for the long haul.
It's been a pleasure diving into this stuff with you. And hey, remember, communication, it's not a nice to have. It's the heart and soul of any company that wants to do great things.
So next time someone tells you, oh, it's just a quick email, remind them that even emails have weight.
They do. And those little emails can add up to a whole lot more than we realize.
So true. Big thanks to you for joining us today for this deep dive.